I could have my time again as a clinic owner, what would I do differently from day one? This is the theme of today's episode. And rather than just my brain, I thought I would invite Fiona onto the podcast. Fiona, as you are going to hear, fabulous Fiona, as we call her, is a strategic coach within Thrive. She's been a Thrive member for just over 3 years, seen some phenomenal changes in that time. She's also a clinic owner of many years, and I'm going to let her share how many when she comes on and introduces herself. But today is for us to have a moment of reflection. And my job as a coach is to allow you to lean into what you are great at doing and stop trying to figure it all out for yourself. If you wanted to learn the piano, you would go and get a piano teacher. If you wanted to learn how to play tennis or paddle, perhaps, which is the latest craze, many of you would go and get some lessons. Those of you who think that you're just going to get really good at playing the piano just by trying it by yourself and practicing over and over again, you might get there, but it's going to take you an enormous amount of time and energy to get to where you want to be. So we have the beauty of experience, the benefit of years clinically, years running a clinic. Between me and Fiona, I think there is 37 years of business experience. So I wanted to bring this episode, I wanted to bring Fiona's brain in, give you some really great things to think about, that if we were to be advising you of what we would really lean into in your business and what you need to be doing more of, this is what we would do if we were starting out again. So enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the Treat Your Business podcast, the show for clinic owners who want real, honest advice and tried and tested ways of doing things. I'm Katie Bell, and this is the new era of bigger insights and bolder conversations to help you grow a clinic and a life you love. Let's dive in.
Hello, welcome to the podcast, everybody. I'm excited to be here this week with the fabulous Fiona. Introduce who you are to everybody, please.
Hello everyone, I am Fiona. I am a business owner, physio business owner, and this year is our 25th year in business. So I run a big clinic, physio, sports therapy, rehab and Pilates studio down in Hampshire on the south coast. And we've got a team of about 18 altogether, 6 treatment rooms and a big studio. And I've worked with Thrive as a coachee for about 3 years now. And for nearly a year now, I've also been on the Thrive coaching team. So I've got a lot of experience and have lived through many challenges and ups and downs as a physio. I am a physio by background as well, so as a physio leader and clinic owner.
Yeah. And I've asked you here, Fiona, because I decided that the title of this episode, or the theme of this episode, would be if we could have our time again and we were starting out a brand new practice, physio practice for us, because that's what we were trained in, but any health and wellness practice, what would we do differently? And having the benefit of making all the mistakes that we've made, all the learnings, all the experience, all the grey hairs that I certainly have. You don't seem to look like you've got any grey hair, but I definitely do. What would we do differently? So we've come up with 3 things each, haven't we, that we were going to discuss. There's some of the overlap. So let's dive in. What would be the first thing that you would do differently, Fiona, if you were starting out again from scratch?
Yeah, when you asked me this question to prep, there was a whole load of things that I could have answered. But actually, the one thing that really stood out for me is, as a leader and a business owner, what's made the biggest change is mindset as a leader, and the realization that actually, as a business owner and a leader, you can become your own biggest bottleneck without realizing it. And I think the intentions are always great, but actually, it's having that realization that has made the biggest difference.
And how long do you think it took you to honestly have that realization that you were bottlenecking the growth of the company?
I think about 22 and a half years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So we see, it's not because for 22 and a half years, you've not done things well. Like, you had a fabulous clinic and it has grown and it has created an income for you and your husband, Paul. So what was the difference when you started then? Actually, like, what made you think, actually, I think there's other things that I need to be working on here, not just strategy and systems and processes?
Because I think you limit yourself, and so your own self-limitations start limiting the business. And once you start seeing that, and I wasn't really aware of that, I think, until I started working on my own mindset. And then you start realizing, actually, I'm holding our whole business back in some of these key areas. Because I think as clinicians, which most of us are who start and run a business, you are doing everything all the time. We've talked about this before, the multiple hats that you wear, the responsibility. You're a clinician, you're doing accounts, you're doing marketing, you do everything. And you're not always great at everything, obviously.
Yeah.
But you have to realize where your strengths naturally lie, work on those and really lean into those strengths, but then also equally learn where they don't lie and start to learn about how you can stop being your own bottleneck by either getting support in those areas, getting better people like A players in those areas to support those gaps, and actually learning to let go a little bit. And once you start letting go and let other people lean into where their natural strengths are, that in itself creates a real platform for another level of growth.
And that's what you've seen, isn't it? That you've really leaned into that element and your leadership skills, removing yourself from controlling everything, all the decisions having to come through you. And that's therefore allowed your clinic to move to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I think clinic owners are often in their stress response. They're in this kind of fight or flight or often freeze mode where they actually just do nothing because they're just running from a place of stress or lack or scarcity or urgency. And that often can't be fixed by better. It can be helped by better strategy and processes and rhythms and systems and team. But we very often run our business through this kind of lens. Now, we're both wearing glasses today, Fiona. If you imagine our lens that we run our businesses through, developed and created through our limiting beliefs and the beliefs that we hold. So if we don't work on ourselves, the lens that we then run the business through and we make decisions through isn't going to support the growth of the business or take it to where you want it to be. And I think that's so important that clinic owners recognise that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And get themselves out of their stress response, because if they make decisions from that place, they can't tap into that executive functioning part of their brain, which allows them to make the right decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you just end up doing more and more as well when you're in that stress response. I think you've spoken about it on a previous podcast, but you just literally just are busy doing like random things without that focus. And you're not asking people because you haven't got that headspace or that clarity to ask other people to support you. So you just constantly doing, you get busier and busier.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then you've got less time to work on yourself or recognize where your own limitations are.
Yeah.
So I think you've just got to be so conscious about working on yourself as a leader.
Yeah. And I think that's the power of, I guess what we do is that we combine both the mindset and the strategy, because we truly believe through experience and the fact that we all really invest in our own development. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you do not work on yourself, your growth will be stunted. You will stagnate. You will hit a ceiling. You will not live the life that you deserve to live and you want to live.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's been my biggest sort of the positive of working with Thrive. When I started, it was seeing that real shift. I'd done business coaching before, I'd done mindset work before, but it's actually those two things together in an industry specific way that made such a huge difference.
Yeah, amazing. The second thing that you said that you would do differently was introducing rhythm and systems earlier. Can you explain that, Fiona?
Yeah, I think anything with a business, there's so many things that are done repeatedly all the time, that you're asking other people to do or you're doing yourself. And the more I think you can systemize those things and make them something that someone else could pick up and take over, or that doesn't take up your brain space, because every time you do it, you have to think about how you're going to do it. And it feels like a new task or a new activity. The more you can do that and document it in some way, that gives you that real good basis for growth. Because I found the more growth that you get, so the bigger you get, you've got so many more moving parts with your number of patients, your team, it gets really complex. So the more you can think ahead and systemize them as you go and make these things repeatable, it helps you as you scale. Because once you've scaled, trying to do all that then is a really mammoth task.
Yeah.
So I think if you start with that intention and start getting those things in place, whether that's with like standard operating procedures, a big ops manual, just add to it gradually, have some consistency and standards. And that helps you then to manage the chaos that sometimes comes as you get bigger and more complex.
Yeah. And then when you've got more people that might be having to follow this process, if it's only in your head, and it could be like, let's keep this really simple, the whole when a patient books process and the medical form that gets to them, and then what happens to that medical information, and then when they come in, what happens, and then you bring them into your room and they do the assessment, and we don't really know what happens when anybody else does it, because you know what you do, but you've not actually put it down in a process. And then we get annoyed because the team members are doing what you want them to do. And so what I'm hearing therefore, Fiona, is if anything happens more than once, it needs a process behind it. It needs a system to support it. But if you start super simple, and I think that you need to be able to basically have a piece of paper or a video or whatever that could be picked up by a 10-year-old, and really they could follow that process quite simply. It allows you to hold other people accountable. It allows you to create better standards in the business, and you not to be constantly repeating yourself over and over again as to why people are not doing what you want them to do.
Yeah, definitely. And that gives confidence as well, I think, because you can trust people, because if you've got those standards that are really clear, they're, again, got to go back to the word consistent, but they're there and people know what they are. They know what you expect of them. And also the patients know what to expect as well. Because again, if you're trying to scale, you need patients that come into your clinic. You don't want them to be just coming to you as an individual therapist if you want to scale and get bigger. So having those repeatable processes in place, because as you say, you've often got it in your head and you do things a certain way, and you might have established over the years that is actually that way really works.
Yeah.
And you don't want, it's not that you want to make everyone robots and do everything exactly the same way. The great thing about what we do is that people bring their own elements into it and their own personality and ways of doing things. But there are elements of it that you can really standardize that you know works. And I say it builds that confidence for the patients and also for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this feels like a nice segue actually into one of the things that I would do differently, which is I would hire A players sooner, and I would tolerate B players and C players a lot less. And so I think by having systems, by having processes in place, we can then quickly understand that this is probably not a process problem. This is more likely to be a people problem. And I think when we grow a clinic, and I know a lot of our listeners here are at that level where they're looking to bring more team, or they've got team and some of them aren't working well for them, it's because they're often hired too quickly, and they've not followed a process, they've not followed a clear way of hiring for the values and the culture within their company. They've basically just gone off skill, or probably lack of, and therefore they've started and they're just not fit at all. Now, if we've not got any processes in place that that team member's got to follow, we don't now know if it's a people problem or a process problem. So that's really difficult. But if we've got systems and we've got processes, it allows us then to see, actually, are these the right fit? Is this person the right fit for my business?
Yeah.
Ideally, we want to, if I knew what I knew now, I would know what to look for and how to recruit. And we've got a great 12-step recruitment process that works incredibly well when it's followed. And it just means that you will get a much better quality of person that are going to stay with you longer, because we've had a conversation, Fiona, about the cost of hiring and the cost of hiring wrongly. And it's tens of thousands.
Yeah, the impact's massive. I think it was 6 months to a year, we thought of almost lost revenue with the down and then the up again. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is whatever size of business, that's significant, and nobody can afford that. So I would hire and I think I would back myself in that. I remember when I first started my clinic, Fiona, I was the circus performer that was doing absolutely everything. And I in my head thought I can't afford to get an A player. So I took on an apprentice on an apprenticeship scheme that was something like £2.50 an hour or something wild like that. And the government topped them up. I don't know, whatever it was. And she was called Lauren, and she was a really sweet girl. And this is, would I do things differently? Yes, I would, because I've got that experience. But did it teach me a lot? Yeah, it absolutely did. And she used to come on the bus from fucking the north end of nowhere, and she used to get up super early, and she'd eat like McCoy's crisps all day for a lunch and a tea and a breakfast. And she was just a really sweet girl, and knew her a lot, really, because she just basically answered the phone and just did some basic stuff. But what it did at that time, when I was clinically maxed out, working 6 days a week, seeing 60, 70 patients a week, teaching 10 hours of Pilates classes, trying to manage everything, didn't actually offload me. All it really did was she just answered the phone a bit and took some payments on the desk, because I had to think for her. I had to plan for her. I had to train her, teach her. She got no experience in working in industry. Gorgeous girl. And I'm sure she's gone on to do great things. But if I had my time again, I'd just put somebody in great, because that would have freed me up to actually focus on what I needed to focus on, rather than just, I was close to burnout. I was just absolutely maxed out. And I know a lot of clinic owners still feel like it's at this level where they're scaling, they're trying to grow, they're trying to bring team in, but they're not backing themselves and they're not getting great people. They're accepting okay people. Have you had that experience, Fiona?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think, especially with the cycle of recruitment availability and scarcity, and then the abundance of them, and you just think, oh, I need to get someone now. And actually, just again, you're making those decisions out of fear and out of lack, and out of that lack of confidence in yourself and your business as well. And the impact of it is, honestly, it's really devastating on a business, actually, hiring those B players. And then when you get a team of A players, the difference it makes overall, again, I think we had this conversation last year, the cumulative impact of having a really solid team of brilliant people, both clinical and non-clinical, is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody listening who's at that point now where you've got people on the team that you're basically having to drag to get them to perform and get them to follow systems, processes, maybe you need to work on those, but you also need to really think, are they a culture fit? Do they fit our values? Have we clearly defined what's important to us as a clinic? Because so many clinics haven't done that. And therefore, how can you then work out whether somebody fits or doesn't fit?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, your third, work on the basics and get brilliant at the basics. Can you expand on that, Fiona?
Yeah, we see a lot of people wanting more all the time, whether it's more clinics, more team, more investing in Google ads, or it's just always looking for more things. And they haven't really nailed the basics and done those really well. Say Google ads, for example, people become really new patient focused, right? We need more new patients, without actually realizing, what are they really doing with the patients they are getting through the doors? Are they retaining them? Are they offering the full service? Are they doing everything they can possibly do with them absolutely brilliantly? And it is sometimes just the basics. It's the communication, it's the follow-up phone calls, it's the email touch points, it's all those really simple things. And if you're focusing on all the other things and more, that distracts you from all of those really important basics.
Shall we call it the foundations, Fiona?
We could call it the foundation. Yes, getting those foundations, absolutely perfect.
Yeah. And this is nothing to feel bad about, because we have conversations with many clinic owners. And I would say that of all of the calls I've done and people that I spoke to, I'm going to say possibly one, maybe two clinic owners that I've ever spoke to, I've thought, they're nailing those foundations and they need to come into our top level program straight away. Like almost none. And there's no judgment there. It's just what is. A, you've never been taught it. B, you're too busy to think about it. C, if you thought about it, you still don't know what the foundation should be. do your revision race, you're completely distracted all the time by shiny stuff. And a foundation sounds boring. It sounds, oh, I want to go for the big stuff. But this is when we get those clinic owners who are at a level where they are eking up their revenue. They might not be making that much more money, but they feel a lot busier. They have got team, although they're desperately wanting team because they just can't physically do anymore, or they've got some team with them. And you can't get to the next level if you think just by seeing more clients and just getting busier is going to outgrow those foundational problems. It isn't going to work. And I've tried it. It doesn't work. You've tried it. It doesn't work. We have to come back to really getting those foundations in place. And that sets you up for growth, doesn't it? That sets you up for, and if you're saying, well, I don't really want to grow, Katie, but I do want more time and I want more money, then you've still got to get the foundations in place.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
One of the things that I've put on here is actually my fourth thing, but I think it's relevant, is that I would dive into and deep dive and get really good at retention and lifetime value a lot earlier. And I think you said that, Fiona. It's like that is a key thing about what's happening to that new patient as they come through. Are you giving them the best possible service? Are you taking them through to the outcome that they want, they deserve, not just allowing them to be pain-free, but actually working with them to deliver those outcomes? Or are we churning patients through a lot quicker? And that's something you've really worked on in your clinic as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. We have a whole ecosystem of services, and we're intentional about that from quite early on, particularly with the Pilates, but also now with rehab and classes that we do. And it keeps people in that ecosystem because you've got them from that injury point to the recovery point. And once they know you and they like you and they trust you, you can then keep them in that recovered stage. And then we do find, obviously, then if they're still in that journey with you as an uninjured person, if they do pick something up or if their husband gets an injury, then they come straight back in. And it's really, it's a really strong place to be in if you've got people in your ecosystem, not just seeking all those new people to come in. It's, as you say, it's that lifetime value.
Yeah, because they cost money. Patients, it costs you money to acquire those patients. Then it can cost you time, or it can cost you physical money, or it can cost you both. So it's really important to leverage that professionally with integrity and do it the right way. But the strategy day that we ran for our members a few weeks ago, Fiona, was all about this, wasn't it? It was actually called Activate More Clients. So it was all about getting more clients, but it wasn't just about piling new leads through from the door and actually not optimizing what's going on within the clinic. So we spent some really good time implementing retention strategies and re-engagement and reactivation strategies, because just a small change, taking somebody's follow-up rate from 1 to 2 cumulatively over a year with the number of patients is tens of thousands of pounds worth of income.
Yeah, and you get better outcomes as well, generally.
Yeah.
So then you've got that the patients, are getting better outcomes from coming to see you.
What if you were to choose between the 3 things that you've said?
Yeah.
So focus on working on your mindset, which has been took you 22.5 years to realize that you needed to do it. Rhythm and systems, because you're a systems person, Fiona. You love a process, you love a system. And getting those foundations in place.
Yeah.
What would be like your number one?
Oh, I think for me personally, it would probably be mindset, because I know I got in my own way. But I think you almost have to get the foundations right first, because although obviously I'm at a stage now where I can focus on my mindset more as a leader, but I think in the earlier days, just before you're looking to scale, or if you're ready to scale, or if you really want to scale, and as you say, that doesn't have to necessarily mean bigger, but it might mean you getting more out of your business for yourself or your family.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even mean being out of clinical, because not everyone wants to do that. So whatever's right for you, getting those foundations absolutely nailed gives you that platform. And I think when you've got to a certain level with that foundations, then you're ready then to work on your mindset, so you can then go to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I would agree. And the other thing that I'd put down as to what I would do differently, and I guess this comes with what comes first, is that I would actually reduce my clinical time a lot quicker. I was absolutely bottlenecking growth massively for years on this because I had the feeling that everybody needed to see me, and if they didn't see me, they wouldn't be very happy. And I was clinically fully booked really quickly. So I hit a ceiling. And then my CEO time, my visionary time, my time to actually think about what I needed to do in the business, what was like happening at 10 p.m. at night, or trying to squeeze it in early in the morning, or between client appointments. And I grew really quickly, but I think at a big cost to my health and just generally I don't think I could have done it for a lot longer in the way that I was doing it. And we see this repeated pattern in so many clinic owners that we work with. So I think it would be, for me, I knew I wanted to not do as much clinical because I was doing like 60, 70 patients a week. So I would get better people in. I would offload that earlier to allow me to spend more specific time on the business rather than try to shove it into different slots. But that's because I knew I wanted to give up clinical. If I was still in that place, and maybe you're listening to this and you're like, no, but I really love my clients and I don't want to do that, then you have to have a really honest conversation with yourself, and you need to put somebody in a seat that is going to start working on your business, because otherwise nothing's going to change.
Yeah, definitely.
Fiona, this has been a lovely conversation. And I think really important for clinic owners to, we've been there, we've done it, we've got the t-shirt, we've earned the stripes, we've walked the walk, we've talked the talk. And I think that's really important that we can now coach from that perspective. And sometimes we have to allow them to learn lessons, but our job is about helping you grow and scale so that the business serves you.
Mm-hmm.
Money, time, confidence, fulfillment, holidays, more time with your family, school pickups, whatever that needs to look like for you. But when you have the benefit of learning from people who have already been there, I think it accelerates your growth. You don't have to make all of those costly mistakes. You can get it figured out a lot sooner. Would you agree?
I would absolutely, totally agree with that. Yeah, I don't think when people come either to our Q&As or our pod calls or see them on the live days, and you probably agree, they're generally, having had this many years experience in the sector, isn't something you haven't come across. So in some way or another, it might be slightly different, but you have at some point come across that challenge, and you've learned from it, or you and I have learned from it as we've gone along, often the hard way. Still learning now, still come across things that haven't come up against before, but you can definitely bring that experience, and that's relevant experience, in every single issue and challenge that people come to us with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would encourage our listeners to stop and take a check on what they're trying to figure out for themselves, because the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting something different to happen. And so a lot of them will feel in that cycle that they're trying lots of stuff, but nothing really is changing. And how long are you prepared to wait? How long are you prepared to not live the life that you want to live? And how long are you prepared for this business to basically suck the life out of you rather than serve you? So yeah, I would encourage them to really think about that.
Yes, definitely.
Fiona, thank you very much for your time. Fabulous.
Right there, to chat.
I would love you to come on again. And I think it's really great to talk from experience. I think it really helps our listeners when they know people have been there, they've done it.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks for listening to the Treat Your Business podcast. Hit subscribe now and keep joining me for bigger insights, bolder conversations to help you build a clinic and a life you love.